Hey, what's going on, everyone? Thank you for coming to watch. So, guys, an update on a very active stretch of severe weather that's going to be occurring across the central and eastern United States. I've also got you guys an update on the tropics as we are expecting Tropical Storm Beryl to form in the next few hours. All right, I've got all the details coming right up. All right, so thank you for joining me here on this Friday afternoon. We have a lot to talk about in this video as we have yet again another active stretch of severe weather, and you can see the first round of it pretty much of late this week is already underway across portions of the Midwest. All right, I'll tell you. On Tuesday, I believe it was. Yeah, it was Tuesday. Yeah, I think it was Tuesday. It might have been Wednesday, but anyways, we got hit by a massive line of storms that kind of continued to move over Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and then my area of Long Island here. All right, I don't know if you heard, but we had a severe thunderstorm watch issued, and we got hit by a massive line of storms that was producing 50 to 60 miles per hour. Now, you may think, like, okay, that's very strong, but not, too damaging. But what was embedded with that line, what I think was what we call a microburst, which is basically just a really intense area of downdraft from a thunderstorm, and that occurred in a area that was just to the south of me, like by a few miles. And so they had damage that honestly looks like some people, like my dad, would think it would be tornado damage, but it was just some very extensive tree damage. We had a ton of trees down. It was so hard to get out of just my town because there were a ton of trees down blocking the roads and stuff. So it was a pretty eventful night, pretty strong storm. Got a lot of footage coming up for you guys from that. But we got to talk about what's going on now. You can see over portions of northern Illinois, southeastern Iowa, and portions of north central Missouri. We have a pretty good band of some pretty strong showers and thunderstorms that have been severe on and off today. We're going to be watching that. And then we also have this surface low that's kind of continuing to spin across portions of Montana. We're going to see the Dakotas get in on some pretty intense storms that could definitely spin up some tornadoes, so we're going to watch out for that. But let's get rocking and rolling here. We'll take a look at your alerts. All right, and starting out here in the south central United States, you can see in the orange shade we have heat advisories. All right, that's going out for areas of south central portions of Kansas down into really all of Oklahoma, instead of the Panhandle that goes down into parts of central eastern Texas, down into southern Texas as well. That includes areas of northern Louisiana and far western Mississippi, and then a few counties down there into southern Arkansas. All right, that's in the orange shade. And then in the purple shade, that's going out for northern Texas and portions of eastern Oklahoma. That's where the excessive heat warnings, that's where heat indices will probably get over about 105 degrees. Some areas may even have a regular temperature at around 100 degrees, which will be crazy. I know you guys kind of got a break from the heat, but the heat is on today. Just be sure to stay cool, stay indoors. We got very dangerous heat still underway. All right, you can see across portions of California, we have an excessive heat watch going out for the valleys to the west, to the west of the Sierras. Also down here into Southern California. All right, you can see we do also have an air quality alert here for areas a little bit, off to the east from where your excessive heat watches are, so a little bit, closer to the Sierras there. All right, but you can see we have a lot of flood warnings and flash flood warnings out for areas that have been hit hard by rain recently. We still have a lot of dam failure that's going on. All right, so some very dangerous, potentially life-threatening flooding has been ongoing across the lower Midwest here. And then finally up into the Dakotas here, you have in this gray shade, you have a wind advisory, this brown shade, I guess, or tan shade if you would. But that's for southwestern North Dakota and northwestern South Dakota. And then you also have a secondary area that is currently under wind advisories. These might be lake wind advisories that are the same tan colored here. So if you're by a lake, then just expect the same impacts as a wind advisory. But that's going out for northern sections of Montana, and then the gold shade, that's where you have the high wind warnings. All right, so nothing too crazy so far under advisories map from the National Weather Service, but this will definitely change. We'll start to see a lot of severe alerts and a lot of severe watches, especially out in this region. I do think that this region, including the Northeast, the Mid-Atlantic, Southern New England, and into the Midwest, I think you guys will be very active across the next several days. So we'll definitely have to continue to watch that. All right. So we're going to head over here to your SPC outlook. This is for today. We do have a slight risk. It's actually off to the west of where our, concentrated area of strong storms are. And, we haven't had too crazy of an event. That's why we have a marginal risk and maybe, slight risk, but it's not going to be for those storms that are impacting now. We're actually expecting some cells to start firing across this region. And actually, we did have them. If you look back at the radar, we did have some showers. All right, those will soon be supercell thunderstorms that will be moving through this area here, where we have the slight risk that's in the yellow shade. That's level 2 out of 5 risk into sections of northern Kansas. That does include sections of northern and northwestern Missouri, central and southern Iowa, and then into southern Nebraska, and then a little bit here of northeastern Colorado. I do expect some pretty strong storms today, so watch out for an elevated tornado threat. Here's that tornado threat. It's a 5%. Notice how it's a little bit off to the east. That basically just means that they're waiting. The SBC is going to want, these storms to wait to fire up, and then after they fire up, to strengthen. All right, so as soon as you get a cell, I mean, it's not going to be producing a tornado right away. It's got to get severe warned, and then it's maybe got to get a little bit stronger, so maybe it'll get to like a considerable severe thunderstorm. In the worst cases, it gets destructive. I mean, they don't all have to get to that point, but they have to get strong, okay? It's strong in order to produce tornadoes. So that's why you have a 5%, including the areas that are going to be a little bit farther down the line from where the storms are going to start, strengthening. But you can see that that's in the red shade. That includes a sliver of northwestern Missouri, a little bit of southwestern Iowa, and then a lot of northeastern Kansas, and a tiny bit of southeastern Nebraska. That's in the red shade. In the green shade, you have a secondary area up here in North Dakota. It does go into a little bit of western Minnesota, and then in the other green shade, this is going out for areas of southern Nebraska. You got northern Kansas in here, northeastern Colorado, a little bit here of Iowa into western Wisconsin, and then a little bit more of northern and central sections of Missouri. That's the 2% risk. That's where a tornado threat is slightly elevated, but it's not too high. Still watch out for an isolated tornado or two inside of that area. All right, today's damage wind threat, it is hatched. All right, you can see that we have a 15% hatch going out for north central Kansas into southwestern sections of Nebraska, northeastern Colorado here. That's in the hatched risk. That's a significant chance for seeing damage wind gusts. And then you still have the 15% that's non-hatched. That's leaving areas out towards northeastern Kansas, southeastern sections of Nebraska, northern and central sections of Missouri, and then central Iowa. That's in the yellow shade. That's 15% risk. And in the 5%, you're in the brown shade. That's basically just for the surrounding areas of this vent that does connect up to the Dakotas, so we may see a few bow segments today. I definitely do think that damage wind gust is going to be a huge threat, especially down here into Nebraska. I think we could I can't rule out a destructive storm from today's event. I mean, this is a very high-end wind event, 15% hatched. We usually get some pretty significant wind gusts with this, so a big damage wind gust event, maybe a QLCS. We'll have to look at model guidance for that, but overall, just a big day for some damage and wind gusts. And then the hail threat is 15%. It's kind of the same exact area as the wind threat. Other than that, though, you don't really have a hatch risk out here. So just, the 15%, same areas as the 15% for the wind, and then the same areas for the 5%. So big hail, damage, wind gusts, and a few isolated tornadoes definitely possible. Today's going to be a pretty big day. It's a pretty high-end slight risk is what I would say. And then this will continue to move off to the east, and then we see tomorrow in the slight risk, we have areas of central and western PA. We've got western New York State. You got a lot of Ohio, pretty much all of Ohio in that slight risk, and then just a sliver of far, far, far northeastern northeastern Kentucky. You do have the northern half of West Virginia, a little bit of the Delmarva area, but a little bit off to the west. Yes, we could definitely see the slight risk get a little bit more expanded. Okay, but this is so far just including these areas. Tomorrow's tornado threat is 5%. That's a pretty high on tornado threat for the Northeast. This basically just includes the hills and valleys of Western PA. The red shade, extreme, like right around the border of New York State and PA, right here is what we're talking about, and then a little bit of northeastern Ohio in that 5%. And then the green shade, you have a 2% risk for tornadoes, just for those surrounding areas. But still, an isolated tornado or two, maybe even one potentially strong tornado is definitely possible. With this is a pretty elevated tornado threat for tomorrow. And then tomorrow's damage wind threat, it expands a little bit more. You have a 15% in the yellow shade. Same thing as the 2%, 5% tornado threat areas. And then the hail, it's the same. Actually, no, the hail, we don't have any hail threat out here in the Northeast, so I doubt we're going to get any significant hail. But there is a secondary area of severe weather down into the plains, and this one's a little bit of a flat 5% here in this brownish red shade. I forgot to mention, you guys out here in this marginal risk, it's a huge marginal risk, but if you're in the green shade, you have a level 1 out of 5 risk. Strongest severe storms is what I would say. But, other than that, just a very busy day for severe weather for really the eastern United States. But still, the plains could definitely get some relatively large hail, maybe some damage wind gusts, and who knows, maybe a spin-up tornado. All right? And then day 3, finally day 3, we have another slight risk here for the I-95 corridor. I doubt this is going to be as strong as what we saw, on Wednesday, or what it might have been Tuesday, but we still could definitely have that kind of situation play out. We just have to look at model guidance once again. But this does include the coastline here of the northeastern United States, includes areas of southern New England, including areas of eastern Maine here, all of Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, southern Vermont. That's actually New Hampshire right there. Right, but this does include southern New England, includes New York City, Long Island, southern New York State, all of New Jersey, southeastern PA, areas of Delmarva, and then eastern Virginia. I would watch out for some pretty strong storms. Probabilistically, that's a 15% chance. You do have a surrounding areas in the margin risk, that's a green shade, and a secondary slight up into eastern Montana and western North Dakota. I would watch out for some severe storms out there as well. Pretty much an equal chance at this point, but as we get a little bit closer to this event, we'll have a little bit of a better understanding of how strong these storms could be. So let's break this down for you guys out here in the plains, or not the plains, the Midwest here. All right, so this is your event that's going on right now. Some pretty strong severe storms as of this morning. But remember, this is not what we're watching for. We're watching for a higher severe threat out here, with some supercells that are going to begin to fire across the region and make their way across, across the Midwest and move off to the east. So these are just some morning strong severe storms, and they kind of move out. But what I do think could happen is that these storms will weaken the atmosphere, so I do think that we're going to see a pretty significant decrease in severe weather and just the strength of these storms as they move off to the east. I think this is really going to kill the atmosphere, and so we're going to see the storms kind of just really decrease in strength as they move into this region, because the atmosphere will already have been overwhelmed by just all the storms that we have this morning. So I think you guys are probably just going to see some steamy thunderstorms, maybe some strong to severe storms out there in the Midwest. But here we go into this evening, and you do have some cells, maybe some isolated cells out here across Wisconsin and into southern Minnesota. Remember, we do have a little risk for some severe storms out there, so I could not rule out a severe storm or two, but this is what we're looking for back here into Nebraska. We're looking for a possible cell that could be moving across southern Nebraska by 8 p.m., but it's going to be really late by the time we see our big-time event going. And we get to 2 p.m., we still don't have any robust convection going on, but, definitely parts of the Midwest could definitely see, a higher tornado threat. You could see we could have some possibly discrete cells as they move across portions of eastern Wisconsin. I would not be surprised if we had a tornado or two out there tonight, especially out here into, far southeastern Minnesota, northeastern sections of Iowa. Definitely some strong severe storms, but what you're looking for here is just these concentrated areas of very strong storms that look like could be big hail or gorilla hail possible with these storms. All right, so we're talking hail that could definitely be up to ping pong ball, even larger, potentially like tennis ball size hail. Big time hail threat out there. When you see these pink shades, that's when you're talking about huge hail. But what you want to look for is storms in this region. That's where the higher threat for severe weather is going to be. And the NAM just doesn't want anything to happen until midnight, where we just get a few isolated spots of some very strong storms, especially out here in northern Missouri. I would really watch out for that. but the NAM just not biting on anything as far as severe weather across portions of northeastern Colorado, uh, southern sections of Nebraska, and then areas of northern Kansas. It's really a lot of stuff that's going on off to the east of there. So I don't know. The NAM just may be struggling to point out some severe weather. We could look at other models. We'll take a look at the FE3 high resolution model. I used to look at that in my old updates. Don't really look at it anymore, and it still shows the same kind of situation folding across northern Missouri. And it seems like the NAM could honestly be on point because it almost shows the same exact situation unfolding where we get a ton of isolated spots of some possible severe storms. So that's what we'll have to watch for. That would elevate the tornado threat because you'd have technically a discrete environment, but this model showing a huge cell over northern Missouri. This could be a monstrous cell, so watch out for that, man. It's gonna be a pretty big day overall, but this event's gonna kind of fall apart as we get into the overnight hours, and then we get to tomorrow. Let me actually refresh the page. Let me go back to Tropical Tidbits homepage. 1 second, guys. Let me clear this up. And we are good to go. All right. So we take this out to tomorrow. I want to talk about tomorrow for you guys. So this is tomorrow morning, early tomorrow morning. You have some pretty strong, I would definitely, increase the threat for severe weather. I guess not increase, but definitely just point out these storms out there into the Great Lakes here across portions of western Michigan into Eastern New York State. A lot of these will be severe. I think a lot of these definitely could produce water spouts as they move over. I believe this is Lake Erie. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, in the comments. But these could definitely be producing water spouts and then eventually tornadoes as they move on land. But we have some more cells that are firing across portions of northern Missouri, north central Illinois, and then northeastern Kansas. I would definitely watch out for that early in the morning, but those storms will kind of just fizzle out as we get into the the afternoon hours. And this high pressure is going to try to kind of kill these storms off and kind of just decrease their strength. But you could see as we get all the way into this is Sunday, so this is that slight risk day. We do have a intense line of storms that's moving across areas towards the Boot Heel of Missouri. I would watch out for that. That's around 9 p.m. This is Saturday into Sunday. So, overall, this surface low is just going to create a lot of mayhem, but some big time storms will be moving across the region today. It's just a lot of isolated spots. I mean, you can see it's just, a ton of different spots where we're expecting some possible severe storms out there into Nebraska and Colorado and then into Kansas. This whole area just needs to be watching for a cell there, a cell here. Just beware that a cell could pop up anywhere and just produce a lot of damage. All right, so now we're done with severe weather. We go over to the tropics, and the tropics have just, blown up. We already had Tropical Storm Alberto that impacted portions of southern Texas and the eastern coast of Mexico. And we have 3 other tropical waves that are currently under the gun for potential development here. Or you can see this one. This is Invest 94L. This one has a 30% chance of development. Right now it's located over here in the Northwest Caribbean, but it's going to be moving over towards the Gulf of Mexico here, and then it'll be kind of crossing over far southeastern Mexico, and then it'll get back into the Gulf here, where it has a 30% chance of development throughout the next 48 hours and the next 7 days. So I honestly doubt that this will develop, but what the National Hurricane Center is saying, a broad area of low pressure over the western Caribbean Sea associated with a tropical wave continues to produce widespread showers and thunderstorm activity. Development of the system is not expected today, while it moves west-northwestward at around 15 miles per hour. And an Air Force, I cannot say that word, mission is basically what I'm saying is the mission planned for today has been canceled. The disturbance is then expected to move towards over move westward over the Yucatan Peninsula and emerge over the Bay of Campeche late Saturday or early Sunday, at which point some development will be possible. Regardless of development, heavy rainfall associated with the tropical wave will affect portions of Central America and Mexico throughout the weekend. Apologize about not really getting through that easily, but anyways, what they're saying is that there's been a huge decrease in the chance for development, so they've canceled the Air Force mission that would be basically just being held inside of the storm. So there's really a very low chance for this developing, but as of right now, it's a 30% chance. And then back over here, this is our big guy. This is the one we're watching. This is Invest 95L. Notice you have a code red out there. That's what I like to call it. You have a red circled area, pretty broad here, but we have a very intense tropical wave. It's an Invest 95L. What they're saying at the National Hurricane Center is that a low pressure system located about 1,500 miles east to southeast of the Windward Islands is gradually becoming better defined. Showers and thunderstorms are also showing signs of organization, and a tropical depression or tropical storm will likely form later today or on Saturday. All right, that's very aggressive just wording from the National Hurricane Center. So that basically shows that there is almost 100% chance that this is going to develop. They have full certainty that this is going to develop not only across the next 7 days, but they said today or tomorrow. All right, so by the time you're watching this video, this will most likely be a tropical depression. But showers and thunderstorms are also. I already read that. This system is expected to move westward at 15 to 20 miles per hour and approach Lesser Antilles by the end of the weekend. Interests there should monitor the progress of this system for more information. Blah blah blah. All right, so next 48 hours, this has a high 90% chance of developing. Next 7 days has a high 90% chance. So basically, this is probably going to be a tropical depression by today or sometime early tomorrow morning. And then behind it, we have another tropical wave. This is not yet an invest, but this is a tropical wave centered several hundred miles southwestward of the Cabo Verde Islands. Is currently producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. Some slow development of this system is possible next week, while it moves generally westward across the central and western tropical Atlantic at 15 to 20 miles per hour. As of right now, it has a near 0% chance of developing, but notice how it does have a low 20% chance throughout the next 7 days. I personally think that this is going to increase enormously. I do think that this could end up having the same, chance of development as Invest 95L. Just meaning that this is probably going to, what I think is probably going to develop into at least a tropical depression. But this will almost certainly become an Invest. Even though it says it's only a 20% chance, I do think gradually as this moves across the region, across the South Atlantic, I do think that this is definitely going to increase the threat for development. All right, so we go over here to Invest 95L. This is what we're looking at as of right now on satellite. You have some pretty robust convection going on. You can see these deep colors of like black and some spots of white. That's some very high cloud tops. Just a lot of thunderstorm activity going on there. You can almost see some outer bands starting to form here. You can see we also do have a very good circulation on this. This is becoming well-defined and just more well-defined as the day goes on. So this is almost certainly going to be, excuse me, I did not mean to click that. This is almost certainly going to be a tropical depression, or like they said, tropical storm potentially sometime today. But you can see just a ton of spin here, well-defined circulation there, and then some outer bands even trying to form. So this is already so far just a very strong storm that's strengthening. I guess I shouldn't say it's a strong storm, but this is a very strengthening storm, if that makes sense. And then you look over here at our intensity map. This is our intensity chart. This basically shows us all the models put together and shows us how strong they predict the storm will get. So notice how a lot of the members, pretty much all of the members, take this up to at least Category 1 status. Now that's a huge jump, but this has been continuously happening where every day we just see all the models pretty much taking this up to a Category 1 hurricane. Now, every single model here takes us up to at least a tropical storm. So I do think Tropical Storm Beryl is pretty much on our hands at this point. All right, but a lot of the members take this up to a Cat 1, but notice there's still a lot of them taking up to a Cat 2, and some of them even taking up to Cat 3, a lot of them getting close to Cat 3. So we're talking about not only a potential strong tropical storm, but a potential hurricane. And who knows? This could definitely get past Cat 1. I mean, we have a good number of members that are taking this up to Cat 2. So we could have potentially a strong hurricane out of Invest 95L, which will be our major storm so far of this season. But I mean, you can see they all really take this up pretty quickly. And it's just looking like, here's the 12-hour mark, and all of them, as soon as we get to 12 hours, are bringing this up to tropical storm status. So just to show you guys that a lot of these members here are showing the signs of this definitely becoming a possible tropical storm, but not only a hurricane. So just gotta watch out for that. That's definitely something that you gotta look out, gotta monitor this, and see if these members bring this up higher, or if more members bring this up to Cat 1, Cat 2. We just gotta monitor the forecast, monitor this in the next coming days. And then we look at here the GFS. We're going to look at what the GFS is saying as of the 12Z run for the storm. As it continues to move across the Atlantic Ocean, you can see this does pop off a pretty well-defined low at about 8 p.m. today. At this point, we would have 1,001 millibar low. This is what you're talking about as a strong tropical depression, strengthening tropical depression, trying to get to that tropical storm status, but it's moving over towards Lesser Antilles. You gotta watch out if you're in the Lesser Antilles, and this strengthens really quickly, and you get this down to a 972 millibar, probably Cat 1 hurricane. I mean, you could definitely argue that this is a hurricane at this point, but this is 2 a.m. On this is Sunday into Monday here, and then you're waking up on Monday and you're looking here and you're seeing that this is a 968 full-blown Cat 1, Cat 2 strengthening hurricane. This is a very strong storm that just slammed the Lesser Antilles, and it did not slow it down. I mean, it just went right through the Lesser Antilles here, down by Trinidad and Tobago. You guys probably got some massive waves from this. Maybe the outer bands reaching into you guys, but if you're in the Lesser Antilles, you gotta be watching this. I mean, this is coming in hot, and you can look at any one of these runs on the GFS, and I can tell you almost all of them, if not all of them, will say that this is going to be moving through the Lesser Antilles. And I mean, you can see this gets down to a 966 millibar low, which you could argue is a Cat 2 hurricane. So this is going to be a very dangerous storm setup here for the Lesser Antilles, and it kind of moves into the Caribbean, and you can see it actually moves up towards Cuba, the Dominican Republic, and we see what happens with that, and it kind of just falls apart as it makes a secondary landfall here as a 981 millibar low, which is probably a very weak Category 1 hurricane, so just a weakening storm that we've got, and it kind of just dissipates as it moves farther onshore into Cuba. And then our second one, this is what I think is going to soon be an invest and then potentially even a tropical depression. This is what happens right behind what will be Beryl, and it does drop a 998 millibar low, and it impacts the same exact area. So Trinidad and Tobago, Lesser Antilles, you got to be just ready for potentially two tropical storms that we're talking about this week into next week, and then into the first week of July, which I guess is next week. But you can see, I mean, both of them get fairly strong. Then this one, the second one, which I think will be a tropical storm or an invest or whatever. All right, it does get down to a 978 millibar low, which you could argue is a Cat 1, maybe even a Cat 2 hurricane. All right, so just a lot of signs for tropical development with both systems. And then you look at the one that was up towards, Central America, it really does nothing. But, I mean, you get a little bit of a spin here. You get a little 1,008 millibar low, but it never does anything too crazy. It just brings a lot of tropical rain into Mexico. And then it's really just these two that you got to watch. But we're going to really dive into why this is not a huge threat to the eastern United States. And we're just basically going to break down why that's going to happen. And so, if we look at first our height anomalies, so what you're looking at here is the warm colors is high pressure, which we call ridging. Low pressure is in the blue shades, all right? And then what hurricanes want, what tropical systems want, is they want these neutral areas of pressure, which is basically down here what you've got in the southern Atlantic. All right, you see these white shades. This is where we don't have above average pressure. We don't have below average pressure. So this is a very good environment as far as what a tropical system would want. All right, and that's what we see all across the tropical Atlantic. All right, all across the MDR and stuff. So, we take this out and we see what happens. And this high pressure ridging, it all of a sudden just gets really strong here over the North Atlantic, over the eastern United States. So here's your little storm system here, and you can see it's kind of, starting to strengthen as we get into tonight. But this ridging is going to keep this farther south. And so we see what happens as we continue into this week and then into this weekend. The ridging, I mean, there's two pieces of it. You got a little trough that's digging down into the northeast United States. This may find a weakness to get up a little bit further north, and that could be a reason why this will start to lift up towards, Cuba and then into the Dominican Republic. If this weakness continues to kind of separate these two areas of high pressure, this could definitely take advantage of that. And we see that kind of happen as we still got that very weak ridge, and this kind of opens up the area for the storm to float past the Lesser Antilles, and then it moves up into Cuba and the Dominican Republic by July 2nd, which would be a Monday or Tuesday. But this kind of it continues to move south because you got this, which is keeping it farther south. That's definitely for sure. This whole pattern that we've got, this whole setup is keeping this system farther south. If this wasn't there, this would probably be trying to move up the East Coast, and that would be a different story. But because of this ridging that we've got, this is going to keep it farther south, and basically what it's going to do is it's going to continue to float into the Caribbean, and it's going to impact the Lesser Antilles. But what we don't know exactly is what's going to happen downstream from that. Could this impact, Cuba and the Dominican Republic? It seems like that's very likely that's going to happen, but it could also kind of float over a little bit too farther to the west, where we have a little bit more of a stronger ridge that's building here, and the weakness that this storm system is sensing is kind of blocked. That would bring this over to the west. This would bring it over to Central America, and yes, we could definitely see a second landfall in somewhere over here. But if this gets close to the Gulf of Mexico, it's just another problem that we've got to watch for. So, we're pretty good. We're pretty good on what on what's gonna happen. We have a good sense of what's probably gonna happen over the next few days. But what we don't know for sure is if it's gonna impact Cuba, in the Dominican Republic, or if it's going to go over to Central America and make a secondary landfall there. We just got to figure that out. But what happens with the second storm behind it? Well, this, ridge kind of opens up a lot, or sorry, this trough opens up a lot of, open air, if you would, all right, for this storm, the second storm to kind of move through. So this could also try to lift north. You do have a fairly strong ridge that's starting to build across the eastern United States. This will kind of keep everything away from the East Coast. So this is very far out. This is already 144 hours out. So we don't know what exactly is going to happen with this. We do think what I think is going to happen is that this is going to take a very similar track to what future Tropical Storm Beryl will take. But I do think that if possible, if this isn't there, by I don't know, July 1st, this could try to take a turn for the worst, and it could actually go up to the East Coast. I mean, that's going to be a worst case scenario, and that's, we don't know if that's going to happen, but we just got to keep our eye on the forecast, keeps, looking at what the models are going to be saying in the next couple of days, and it does kind of take a northern turn, but because it's too weak, it kind of dissipates over over Cuba and the Dominican Republic, and it doesn't get to that point. Also, because of this ridge keeping it farther south and also weakening it out. So this could honestly be your saving grace if you're on the East Coast. But just continue to monitor the forecast. We just gotta keep watching what Invest 95L is going to be doing and what this second one is going to be doing after Invest 95L. And then finally, we look at our wind shear map here. This is just looking at how much wind shear is in the area. Gonna keep this short and sweet. So for hurricanes and tropical systems, you're looking for less wind shear, and we see that mostly across the board here for the areas that are in front of the storm. We have a little bit of wind shear, in front of it in some isolated spots. But for the most part, there's limited wind shear, which is going to help out this storm. It's going to, help it maintain its strength, and it kind of just continues to move over to the Caribbean, and the pattern kind of just supports that this storm will not interact with any wind shear as it strengthens and moves into the Lesser Antilles. You don't see much, but you do see this little current that it could get sucked up in, and we could definitely see a lot of the storm get sheared off by that wind shear. But you're just gonna have to see how strong the wind shear gets. So I mean that kind of just continues to move, and then this little feature here could actually bring it to the north. That's what we were talking about. You got a current, the steering current that could lift it up and kind of bring it to the north. That's also something to watch. So I apologize for not getting through that update very well. I haven't done an update in a while, so kind of just got to get back to it. But for the most part, just stay safe with your severe weather. Stay safe with the tropics. But that's all I got for you guys. Thanks so much for coming to watch, and I'll see you guys next video.